Everybody, welcome back with the Plat. Purplatypus is the name, and you guys know the only thing I care about is views. Getting the most amount of views possible. That's why, hot off the press, I am going to be bringing you my very first tier list for the SSRs in sort of Convallaria. Now, why do I say that? I say that because obviously, like everyone else that's ever made content for this game has already made tier lists, right? I feel like I'm the only person that hasn't made a tier list, and it's finally time. We are going to make a tier list, and preface here, there are maybe 3 or 4 characters I have not used in the SSRs, and if I have not used them, instead of speculating, I am going to go with a wise man's tier list here. We have a tier list that Celion made. I'm not going to use them for the units that I have used, but the ones that I have not used, I'm just gonna insert here. All right. So also, this tier list has characters like a Gust, which I have not used, and I'm not gonna judge yet because they're not in the game, and Safia because she's not in the game. But it doesn't have Koko anywhere on here. I don't see. So I'm using Butterfly instead of Koko. And we're just gonna let's jump into it. Let's talk about the S tiers. Or let's talk about all the characters. So first S tier is gonna be Koko. She is probably the best character in the game, if I'm being completely honest. She is incredibly tanky. She also has great support. She has not very good damage, but she's got great buffs. She's got a sleep attack. She has the ability to stun. She's incredibly tanky. She's an incredibly good healer. She's got good buffs, and she's just like every single team is better when you have Koko on it. Like she is gonna be it's gonna be hard pressed to power creep her because of how good of because if she becomes not tanky enough, they release better tanks. She's still one of the best healers. If they put out a better healer, she's still gonna be a good tank, you know. So they have to put out like if they put out a better tank and a better healer, not only does she still have like buffs and stuff, but like she still does both of that in one slot, you know. So Koko is pretty much the best character in the game. Alexi. I'm sorry, Alexi. We might move things around as we get further into the video, but I'm putting Alexi in C tier. I think Alexi is super powerful, but they just don't do anything most of the time. What Alexi is good at is standing still and enemies attacking him and then him counterattacking. Because every time he gets hit, he gets a stacking damage buff. It's attacker damage, I don't remember. And a stacking lifesteal buff. So he becomes harder and harder to kill. He counterattacks harder and harder, and he deals more and more damage. And then when he dies, he actually doesn't die. He kind of just like gets resolved for the next turn, so he gets like invincible for a turn. It's very good. But the thing is, if you just kind of ignore him, and like, there's so many things that don't proc his counterattack. Sometimes he gets pushed, sometimes he gets by range, sometimes he gets by magic. I just feel like he kind of ends up never being a character that I want in my team. He just never feels like he does enough for me. Beryl, I'm going to put in S tier. One of the higher damage dealers in the game. She's got great AoE. She's got great single target. She's got the ability to set tiles on fire. She's even got some good energy recovery and a little bit of healing, but like she could recover a little bit of energy for the team. Overall, like it's honestly, she just does a lot of damage. And then when she doesn't do a lot of damage, she's still a great kind of support, but mostly she just does great amount of damage. You do have to listen to her voice, so I would put her down a tier for that, but I can't quite. Cole, I am putting, this is mostly going to be from a PvE perspective, because I haven't played PvP that much. Cole, I think I'm going to put Cole in B tier currently. I think Cole is either S tier, the strongest character in the game, or D tier, kind of bad. I feel like they just have an issue where it's like, if you don't get to kill something on one hit and proc their thing, they just kind of suck. Like, if they don't get that act again, they just kind of like, yeah, they do good damage, but I don't feel like it's good enough to be put in such a dangerous spot. Because Cole gets in, but Cole doesn't make it back out if you don't get that act again. Sometimes they get like they get the ability to like dodge, and they shadow clone jutsu behind someone and stab them. Sometimes that gets you in a way worse spot. Like you get attacked from ranged, and then suddenly you teleport like halfway across the map into enemy territory, then you just die from other things. I feel like Cole is good, but I feel like if Cole is on equal footing with a lot of the enemies, that Cole actually kind of falls off. I'm not crazy impressed with Cole, personally. They might move up depending on what I feel here. Maybe I'll put them in low A tier, but there is just no low A tier right now. Dantalion, I think this is a good example of a B tier character. He's just kind of good. He doesn't do as much damage as Beryl, but he's got like a survivability that's really important. None of his stuff is like that impressive, but he's just a really good standard unit. Not particularly tanky, but he is kind of like a, he could either be melee or he could be range. He does decent damage, and as long as he's killing stuff, like he keeps healing, getting more energy back, so he can kind of use his expensive skills all the time. Because if he uses an expensive skill and gets a kill, then he'll get some energy back, and then he might even be able to use it again the next turn, you know, and kind of feed into itself. I just feel like his damage isn't that good, and his survivability mostly comes from healing as opposed to being tanky. He doesn't have that much like utility, so I'm not like super impressed with him. He just seems like a solid B tier to me. Xavier, I'm sorry, he's D tier. I am going to say something good about him though. In Spiral of Destinies, he is maybe the most S tier unit of all time. If you're like level 60 like me, you bring in your Elysium characters for fights. Xavier, he one-shots everything, and he has got some big AoE attacks. The issue is when he's doing a fair fight, he kind of sucks. He kind of just doesn't do nearly enough damage. I don't know if the video came out yet, or if it's my next video coming out, but I have like a whole build going over him. And he just kind of flounders around. His build isn't really synergistic with itself. A lot of things get in the way. Like, you want to run certain abilities together, but then when you run them, I don't feel like they work that well. His trait's a little average. And overall, it just kind of... I just think he just doesn't do nearly enough. Edda, for me, is an easy A tier. She's not an S tier. She's not, like, busted, anything like that. But she is really good. I would honestly probably put her above Cole. Liquor is one of the strongest, like that casket. So she's basically one ability. Like she's 2 abilities. She has the damage up 3. She also does have like an energy recovery that lets her do a bunch of assist attacks, but the thing is, I was really interested in doing an assist attack build for her, giving herself high ground, giving her 5 assist attacks and having her just go to ham, but it just really doesn't do that much damage. It's just kind of bad if I'm being honest. But that liquor barrel is good. It's a big AoE. It slows enemies down by 150. It makes it harder for them to move. It lowers their magic defense by 40%. That stacks with another 40% damage buff. That ability is just so good on its own. The ability to give any of your characters pretty much high ground wherever you want is insanely good. The ability to give a huge buff to your allies are pretty good. And she does reasonable damage. She's probably like one of the lower pure damage deal. Like if you're looking at actual just damage numbers, she's probably not the highest. You know, she's not very good, but she does do like reasonable damage for a mostly support character. She probably does more damage than Koko, honestly. So I mean, there's that. Although she doesn't have a lot of the other utility. Vical, this is a character that I don't use that much. For me, he's just kind of C tier. And it's like he seems good, but I never really want to use him over Abyss, if that makes sense. Like, he has, like, the ability to attack things a bunch, or he could do, like, an alert build. And honestly, it just, to me, he kind of got outshone by, like, Abyss was better at doing debuffs. For range characters, I had Beryl. For, you know, alert-based characters, there's characters like Momo. And so it's like, I just don't feel like he's that particularly good at anything, but he is a solid unit, and he's definitely going to do really good in your content, but I don't know. I haven't been impressed with him. Maybe I need to give him more of a chance and actually purposely use him in more content, but I'm never impressed with his damage or his skills, basically. Garcia, unfortunately, I think I have to put B tier. So Garcia has this thing. Turn 1, she's down here. And then turn like 9, she's like up here. She becomes like the best damage dealer in the game, single target damage dealer, but it just takes time. So I'm putting her B tier. It is kind of annoying to have to wait a lot of turns for her to get good, but she does keep getting better and better and better. And her damage, especially when you have like the devil on her and you're killing stuff, she absolutely, that with her revs or whatever, you know, getting her revs all the way up, getting the devil tarot all the way up. I mean, she could break damage numbers like no one else in the game, hands down. Absolutely busted. But it just like, it's kind of slow. By the time, like, if something's gonna last like 5 turns, Cole's better because Cole does way more damage up front, all alpha. And if something's going to last more than 5 turns, then sometimes Garcia is better because she'll end up outscaling Cole by a long shot. But it's a very slow burn, which is kind of weird for a Seeker unit, in my opinion. Gloria, easy S tier. I'm putting her above Beryl, I think. I don't think I'm putting her above Koko, though. Gloria is the very first banner unit. I mean, she's just so good at fucking everything. She hits like a truck. She boosts everyone's movement speed. She's got so many great auras. She increases everyone's attack, everyone's defense. Then just passively, then she could throw the stupid flag down and make it global instead of 5 tiles. And then she could also do the buff that gives everyone damage reduction. Then she goes up and she just hits so hard. She's just such a fucking powerful unit. You never, like, I have a hard time not putting Koko and her in every one of my teams for the entire game. Like, it's just so hard to not use them because they're just so good. And honestly, I use Simona a lot too, but just absolutely busted. So Iggy is the first character I haven't used. You might not be able to see all this. It's okay. Now, Iggy is considered a low tier character. After having read Iggy's abilities, it seems like they basically do nothing. However, they get this really good attack that could make them do really good damage higher up. But I assume that that doesn't outweigh the amount of turns that they're just not that good, personally. Because I haven't used them, so again, we're going off silly on there. Inanna. Inanna is definitely an S tier because she is just another copy of any unit you want her to be, basically. If you're like, oh, I wish my Beryl had a second turn, you could have Beryl use her explosion attack, you know, where the one that does this massive AoE. Then you could have Inanna give her act again, so it instantly goes off. You could basically, she's like a cheat code. She's basically for that dance ability. But what's actually surprising, I'm going to move her down to A tier because in PvP content, in PvE content, you have the act again power. And if the act again is really that important, I feel like here's the thing. I just don't use Inanna. I know she's good and she's probably S tier. But I'm actually going to keep her high A tier because I think she's mostly the act again. The guard is pretty nice because it keeps you alive for like one more hit. The dispel could be pretty good. She's a good healer. But I just honestly, outside of the dancer ability, I think she's kind of not mid, but I don't think she's like that impressive outside of the dancer ability. And the dancer ability can be pretty easily replaced with a tactics power, at least in PvE content. Although it does free up the slot when you use her. I mean, she's insanely good, of course, absolutely. But I am going to, I'm going to keep her high A tier personally. Leonide, this is another breaker. If you look at the breakers here, apparently breakers are dog shit. We're going to put this down in D tier. My understanding for him, I used them a little bit in like a trial map or something. He has like really good attack and really good movement. But it's like, because he can only move like in straight lines once you have this thing on, but he gets a bunch of movement, so he can move like, he basically moves like Pac-Man, but he can move really far. But his cooldowns are like 6 turns to use his action. He has like a good skill, and it just like has a 6-turn cooldown. It is just so long to actually be able to use it again. LilyWill? I've used LilyWill, but I don't think I own LilyWill, do I? I'm going to see if I own LilyWill really quick. 1 second. Because sometimes I get confused with the test server. I think I skipped LilyWill though, personally. I got Nonowill, not LilyWill. Okay. So I haven't really used her enough to give her. LilyWill is going B tier. For my understanding, it just kind of seems like she's good. She's just good and she does great damage, but she has like one standout insanely powerful ability, and all of her other abilities are just kind of like mid, but like her ability to jump up and hit something super hard is powerful. She does have a skill that lets her put quite a bit of infection stacks on stuff and maybe combine with like Nonowill. That's pretty good. But it seems like this is where she goes. Magnus, I'm putting in the C tier. I really like Magnus a lot. I think he actually pairs really well with Koko because he's got the Fortitude banner that makes her even tankier. But he's kind of a one-trick pony. Now, don't get me wrong. It's kind of a nice trick, but I feel like it's actually kind of like the Alexi thing, where Alexi's a one-trick pony, I feel like, but it's a pretty good trick. He's all about getting that cry of victory. It's like when something around him dies, he gives like an attack down buff to everyone of the enemies, and then like a damage up buff to all of the allies. It's a great buff. And you could even trigger it with the mountain chop. He gets a mountain chop, or even if he doesn't kill something before he attacks, he does trigger it, so it's pretty good. But like, He has like this throw ability, which is like very overpriced. It's kind of cool, but it does like not nearly enough damage. And then Iron Chariot, it can't kill people with the throw ability. Like you can't throw them off ledges, which would be fucking sick. And then he has Iron Chariot, which I think is just kind of like whatever. It's not very good. So he's mostly that Mountain Breaker and then some passives. And he has an AoE auto attack. It's just like, there's so many turns where I use the Mountain Breaker, and even if it kills something or doesn't, it's a nice buff. But then I'm like, all right, 3 more turns from now, he'll be able to do something again. Because like he's just auto attacking with like a semi-weak, like 70% damage auto attack, which has like a big AoE, but still just like, he doesn't really do much outside of those turns. He kind of just wants to stand around people. He has a great passive though that lowers the, I believe it's the strength of the attack of enemies around him. So he just kind of wants to stand next to things as they die, so you get to keep that buff going, which is pretty good, but I don't think it's much higher than C tier. Maitha used to be an A tier, probably. I think she's like low C tier now. Maybe that's not fair. Maybe she is B tier. She's really good, but the issue is Koko does everything Maitha does, but like 10x is good. Maitha's like a little bit is a tank with some healing properties. A little bit of buff properties as well, but Koko does all of it just better. She has a lot of knockback though. Koko also has a 3 knockback though, so it's like almost every single thing Maitha does is just outdone. But I mean, still Maitha's super good. She's gonna be your early game tank for a long time. She's great, got pretty darn good healing abilities for a tank. She is definitely tanky. She's got reasonable damage. She's kind of like a protagonist character, I feel like she just kind of does everything pretty well without excelling in any of it, but it's a nice full package. And she is one of the best when it comes to knocking things off of cliffs. Miguel is another one I don't have, but I think everyone hates Miguel. Miguel is just like trash tier. From reading his abilities, my understanding, it's just like all of his abilities feel like they do almost nothing. There's a lot of like, you could jump over people, and then if you jump over someone, then you would use a skill, you could scorch them one time. It's like, but then if they're scorched, it's like that's not that good to apply scorch on one target you attack. Sorry, my nose is itchy. But then it's like, oh, he has this skill. It's like you can mark someone for death, but it's within 5 tiles. And then when someone kills it, Miguel gets 2 energy back. But it's like that ability is like a 4-turn cooldown with. Sorry, I'm scaring my cat. I was just trying to get him off the table. It's like a 4-turn cooldown with it's not instant, so you have to waste your whole turn doing no damage for like a subpar outcome. So it just, and Iggy blind seems pretty good, but it's like, is it actually that good? I don't know. I don't like RNG in my characters, so I'm putting him in D tier. Momo, I think Momo is easy. I think Momo's potential S tier here. I think what's going to push her above A tier into S tier is going to be her viability in PvP, which I don't want to like overstate because I'm not that good at PvP. But in my first PvP tournament, everybody that had Momo used Momo. So to quickly cover her PvP, basically she has the game's only pull. I mean, I know there's like, you know, the assassins and Garcia has a pull, but her pull can pull. It's like a push pull. It's a reverse push is what they actually call it. So it can push people off of cliffs towards her, which is a very hard thing to play around in PvP. When you have a 3-tile wide, push 2 tiles or pull 2 tiles, and the pull could be lethal off cliffs, that's a very good ability. But also, at level 55, this Wake Demon form or whatever it's called, I forget, but her level 55 ability is so cracked, especially if you get the alert gem. It's like she gets this 3 alert attacks a turn. The attack does great damage. It does great lifesteal. It applies stacks of infection if you have the passive equipped. It's just so cracked. By using it once, it's stacked for 3 turns. You could use the tarot that makes it so you either do more damage when it's not your turn to get a lot of damage out of it, or you could even do the tarot where if you just go on standby, you reduce your cooldowns by a turn. So if you do that twice after she attacks, whatever, you'll be able to keep Doom waking up for the entire combat 100% of the time, and then she's just an alert machine. Actually so good in PvP. Sorry, because of the push-pull, but she's really good in PvE because she does so much stacks of infection. She has a huge shield for tanking. She's immune to knockbacks. She also has she does a lot of damage even without the infection, but then she also just does lots of stacks of infection and can instantly proc it. Absolutely jacked character. I was going to put her high A tier, but I actually think she just kind of goes low S tier. I don't think she's quite as good as like the top 3, but she's up there. Nurgle, where are you at? Nurgle is considered a tier 3 guardian, so I am going to put Nurgle down here. I'm going to put him C tier. Now, here's the thing. I might know nothing. This might be the only character in the game that I've never read their kit at all. I have not a single idea of a single one of their abilities. So I am not going to speculate at all. But something tells me, because he's got purple hair, he belongs in C tier and a not D tier. Nonowill is probably... I'm gonna put her low A tier. I was gonna put her lower, but I think low A tier is probably the way to go. If you're using her for her gimmicky reason, which is why I use her and I like her, the ability to do lots of stacks of infection and then put things to sleep and keep them permanently slept locked is really good. But it is a little gimmicky. It's not that applicable in a lot of situations. But she does have this other skill set, basically, where like she's like a dancer and a singer. You can make it so she could put on a song that turns off the active skills of enemies. That is so strong. She has another one that like gives everyone vulnerable 3 around her. She has a 99% dodge. It's like her and Koko are so fucking hard to deal with because Nonowill is doing insane debuffs, turning off your active skills, turning off your giving you vulnerable 3. And then she has 99% resistance to AoE. And so that means if Koko's around her, you can't target her with anything because you hit the AoE, she doesn't take any damage because she's like immune to it, at least the first time you don't want around. But then you try to single target her and Koko just jumps in. So actually kind of jacked. Super good character in pretty much all content, but she does feel a little bit narrow in PvE. She has to like actually get to them and then attack. In the first round, she doesn't do that much. She does do a lot of infection stacks. But I mean, Momo just kind of does it better, honestly. But I do like the sleeping people into sleeping people into sleeping people. Nungal, I've had for a long time, and I just haven't really used her that much, if I'm being honest. I don't even know why. I think I'm going to put her in the A tier. I haven't used her nearly enough, but I mean, it's hard for me to imagine a character with 8 range that gets stronger the further you are away from a target. Is bad. So I probably, if I was going to go off my gut reaction, I'd put her in the B tier, but I actually think I just haven't utilized her well enough recently and I need to use her more. She seems like an A tier character to me. I'm going to put her below Nonowill though. This is going to be top down, left, right, which I'm going to tell you now that the video is almost over, right? Yeah, I think she goes there. I don't have that much to say about her. She's just got a crazy range and she's got high crit chance. She could do the the Hangman's Mark. She's a very, very fun character to use, but there's a lot of characters in the game. It's hard to take out like some of these characters from your team, right? It's kind of hard to take some of them out. Beryl, I almost never use anymore. I just think she is actually that good. Simona, this might be controversial. I'm going to put Simona not in S tier. I'm going to put her in high A tier. Is that appropriate? I think Simona probably belongs in low S tier. It's hard for me to say. I think it's borderline. She's just kind of great though. Her damage isn't like, whoa, look at that damage. Her tankiness isn't, whoa, look at that tankiness. Her control is actually pretty good with the ability to lower so many people movement speed, and Winter Wonderland is good. But I think she does like great damage without being absurd. She is very physically tanky because of her shield that she gets every turn. If they break the shield, she does counterattack damage to it. And then she could lower enemies' movement speeds. She could freeze them solid. She could push them, create down ice, and then give a big shield to all your allies if you want that, and then make them immune to the ice tiles while making the enemy slow to ice tiles. I think she definitely deserves S tier. I just don't think she's like as like crazy broken as like Koko. But I think she just is like such a, like, I never don't want to have her on my team. She's just always so good. Yeah, I think she deserves her spot up there. Let's do, it feels weird to do these two because these are two characters I also don't have. Samantha is the only character I've actively skipped. Let's take a look where they put Samantha here. Samantha is a watcher, right? She's going T2, so she's going to go down here in C tier. So here's the thing about my understanding of Samantha. She has the ability to like revive herself when she dies like 2 times the combat, which is cool. But as like a healer, and she could heal using her energy when it's not her turn, like a reaction heal. But that's an expensive resource to use energy to do that, especially because you could probably bait it out by doing low, like, instant speed attacks first and then using high damage attacks. Like Rawiyah could do like her charge maybe to get an energy out of Samantha and then actually hit really hard after that. But I think the issue is like Angel is like is in the game and it's just a fucking badass healer. Like Angel's probably just better, right? Or if not better, she is free and she is here. So that's pretty good. And Teadon, I think Teadon is not, I'm not going to put him in D tier. I don't have that much experience with him, very little experience. But my mind and how good he is at least going to be a C tier. I think that he has this big alert skill that is like a 3x3 square or something, or not a 3x3 square, but it's like, you know, 3 tiles away from him. And then it's like, if anything triggers it, he hits that whole area and then he stuns everything in that area. If you have the alert gem, that just feels like such a fucking powerful ability. He also has an alert in front of him every single turn, but he is just kind of derpy. He just doesn't really do that much damage, honestly. His damage is kind of like embarrassingly low. But I'm thinking maybe with the ability to give everyone big ass shields, the ability to stun everybody, it might just make him like a thorn in the side of the enemy long enough to kind of fuck them up, especially if you have the alert gem and you stand in front of someone and they have to move away from you, because if they try to use a skill or move to the side, what did you just do to me, game? BCU! Yeah, I think most people would rank him down here. I'm gonna put him up here because I actually think he has some potential, but I don't actually have that, but that's speculation on my part. And finally, Rawiyah. Rawiyah is, I think she's definitely like an A tier character. I'm going to put her even above Cole, honestly. I think she can go up here. I think she can go, I think she actually might be the strongest A tier character. I don't think she's S tier, but I think she's probably the strongest A tier character. I mean, it's probably ridiculous to put her in front of Inanna. I'm going to do it anyway. We'll see what people say. The thing is, she is one of the better damage dealers, but she doesn't sacrifice anything for it. A lot of the damage dealers have to sacrifice a lot. Like Nungal kind of has to set up and then has to stay really far away. Garcia has to let it rev up over time. Momo has to get multiple hits on the same target. I mean, Beryl probably doesn't really have to sacrifice. Beryl is like a squishy mage, right? And Simona doesn't have the greatest damage. Rawiyah just does fucking badass damage. Really good. She has a knockback on her normal attack, which is fucking sick. I love it. But you can also switch that out for just like a debuff attack, I think it is. Or it's a powerful attack. I don't know. She has 2 other ones, so you don't need to use the knockback. But she has tons of self-healing. Tons. She heals herself pretty much every single turn, multiple times. Especially if you do take a cup, she just is always healing herself up. Every time she heals herself, she also is getting passive damage reduction. So when she gets hit, she'll counterattack. Sometimes she'll heal herself and then give herself damage reduction. Then her turn comes up, she'll heal herself, give herself damage reduction. You could use take a sip to heal herself and give her damage reduction, all while hitting characters for a ton of damage. And she has the Sword of Convallaria flag, which is one of the better ones in the game, because there's a surprisingly large amount of characters in the Sword of Convallaria. I don't expect you to be able to see this very well. Don't worry about it. But Beryl, Momo, and Inanna are all part of the Sword of Convallaria. And then so are Faikel and Maitha and Nono. But I actually think that these are like 3 of the best characters in the game, are all Sword of Convallaria. And it's a good fucking flag. It makes it so they deal 8% more damage and increase damage by 8%. It's like fucking good, bro. I think she's like actually stacked. She's a really good character. Is mine 5-star? Not yet. Not yet, but maybe one day. Maybe one day. So I think she's going to go at the top of the A tier. All right, and there we are. There is my tier list, guys. I want to thank you all for watching. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I'm a little later than the other people, but I wanted to play with most of the characters, and I haven't played with everybody. There's still several I haven't played with. Ironically, they're all the ones that are down low, so I seem to have gotten every one of the good characters in the game, and then just not gotten many of the low characters, or maybe because I haven't used them, I'm biased, and I would actually rank these higher if I actually had a chance to use them. Iggy's the one that I want the most out of these, probably. But yeah, that's it, guys. See you in the next one. Bye. All right, now that they're all gone, let's talk for real. Me and the other people that actually made it to the very end of the tier list. Guzman. We're going to talk about him. Guzman is my favorite character. I think he's B tier. I think he's B tier. If I'm making a real tier list, and I'm going to be serious for a second here, I think he's B tier. I'm actually going to go in and look at his skills here. So I think people shit on Guzman too much. I'll admit that I'm biased and that I really like him. Let's take a look here. So Guzman actually has like the best magic tanking abilities in the game. He's actually as good as, so he's probably better than Suppression when it comes to magic tanking. And no other legend has his potential for tanking magic like he does. Like literally, Simona has good physical defense. Koko has great normal, like just tankiness. But Guzman has protective counterattack here, a skill unique to him so far. It's not purple, so other people could have it, I assume, but I haven't seen it. Takes 30% less magical damage. Takes magical attacks for all other allies within 2 tile radius. When attacked with it by an enemy within a 3 tile radius, you get a strike back deal and 70% magic damage. It can be used 2 times per round. So 2 times every round for 3 turns, he just takes magical attacks for all allies, which is so good. It's just like it's niche and it's narrow, but that is so good. Combined when he has Darkest Blade, suddenly you get mana conversion of will. So you get your physical attack gets boosted by 80% of your magic defense, which is already going to be pretty high if you're building them for that. But also will, you get 50% increased magic defense when you're injured, which is what you do already when you're using your evil Luxite. You instantly become injured. So you instantly get a huge boost to your magic defense, and that all goes to your physical attack, and then you smack him in the face. It's honestly a fucking great combo. Not to mention, he actually gets like 50% additional damage reduction when dying. And he has a fucking Earth Shatter. He has a 3-tile stun for a turn. It's only 1 turn, but I mean 2 turns would be busted. It's not great damage, but it's a stun. They skip their turn. Then he even has, this is a 105% AoE. While this is prepping, he takes 60% less damage. And then all enemies within 4 tiles, he deals 105% damage to, and then he gets 20% lifesteal for a turn, so he fully heals himself. Then if he dies, he actually comes back up. So unironically, I think Guzman is great. But I think people shit on him, but I don't think he is like as good as I would like him to be still. But I'm going to put Guzman in B tier. I actually think he is legit, and I'm going to do a build video for him pretty soon. But that is the actual end of the video today, guys. Again, that is all. Thank you very much. Purplatypus is Purplatypus. I'll see you on the flip-flops. Bye!
Turning on the screen with a laugh aloud, Purplatypus brings the fun.